Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. I just wanted to share a few updates, and also right after this intro, I'm going to be sharing some of my thoughts from the Arthur hearing on September 9th, and I just want to be sharing some of my thoughts about the notes that I took at the Arthur hearing. But first, I want to jump right into an update that I just noticed in the Leon County Clerk's court filings of Charlie Adelson's case file. I just shared that video with you about his MP3 player and the motions that his lawyer had filed on Monday the 12th of September 2022. I wanted to share with you something that I saw in his file that was filed on September 16th of 2022. Defendant Charles Adelson's notice of withdrawal of motion for recommendation to Leon County Sheriff's Office regarding access to discovery and contact visits with counsel. So it says, Defendant Charles Adelson, by and through undersigned counsel, hereby gives notice that with the assistance of State Attorney's Office and Leon County Detention Center, the issues raised in his motion for recommendation to Leon County Sheriff's Office regarding access to discovery and contact visits with counsel are now moot. Mr. Adelson therefore withdraws his motion. So that's on September 16, 2022, of Marcus, Neiman, and Roshbaum and Pinero. It goes on to say, I certify that on September 16, 2022, I filed a foregoing document with the Florida Court's e-filing portal, which will cause a copy of this document to be served on all counsel of record. I'm guessing, you guys, that Daniel Roshbaum has spoken to Georgia Kappelman and the county clerk's office, and they would probably recommend that they copy those documents rather than his independent copy company that he had suggested in that motion. I just also wanted to thank some of the viewers for noticing what the narcotics related issues would have been if Daniel Roshbaum got independent copy company rather than having just the Leon County Clerk's Office deliver this stuff to the jail, which has probably caused a lot of problems at the jail. For them to copy something like 57,000 documents would have been a really crazy endeavor. I'm glad that they have kind of worked that out behind the scenes, and I had full faith that the state would. And also, guys, just make sure that you pre-order or have ordered Ruth Markel's book from Amazon, The Unveiling, and I want to do another video about some of Ruth Markel's history of her writing, and I want also to do that video where we share our comments and our love for Ruth Markel, and I want to share some of your comments with her. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to myself and some of the things that I noticed in the Arthur hearing, and I'll just go ahead and send it to that video right now. And I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to share today some of the things that I caught behind the scenes in the Arthur hearing that just happened September 9th of 2022 for Charlie Adelson, who is the alleged co-conspirator of the murder of Dan Markel, and he is awaiting trial, and he was just denied any bond through this Arthur hearing. So I want to share some little interesting tidbits that I might have shared in my live, but I want to share it in more of like a calm manner, and I want to look at my notes here that I was taking in the courtroom. So the first thing that happened, I was in the courtroom and I was sitting about 10 feet from Charlie in like the second row in room 3G, and sat there for about like 10 minutes with a few reporters and then Charlie, and just kind of observing. He looked absolutely miserable, and Charlie's lawyer came in, told his lawyer that he'd been up since 4 a.m., I guess, to have the transport from the jail. So he also said he was so happy to see his lawyer, and he looked slim, but his hair looked a little bit greasy. And then Georgia and all the state's prosecution came in, and then they started this PowerPoint that we were able to see, and I guess that jurors would be able to see. And this PowerPoint, you guys, is sensational. It is fantastic. Big shout out to the state. It's great. And so then they showed this photo of Dan Markel at the hospital, it was so horrible, so grim, and I'm sure the people who were at the first trial saw it. It's absolutely awful. And so Charlie, I believe, and I wrote down as I was taking notes, Charlie leaned in to look at the picture, and then he kind of had this look on his face like, I don't know if that was for the cameras or the audience, but he was feeling kind of saddened by the picture. That's the way I took it, or frustrated at what he'd done. So saw like a little bit of remorse from Charlie at that point. So then they, went into the intro, into the opening statement, and when Georgia Cappleman talks about the TV, Charlie closed his eyes. Every time they mentioned the TV, he closed his eyes. And then they introduced these new phone call records and texts the day of the murder. And I typed in my notes, there was some text that Katherine said to Charlie the day of the murder with their text, something about a big case. So I'm not sure whether this was like a suitcase or like a murder case, spelled C-A-S-E. So we will be seeing these texts that were exchanged between Katherine and Charlie. That's new evidence. Also, the money drop phone records, they have very detailed phone records of Charlie's car the day of the money drop, which is really, really great evidence. Also, the cell phone records of Katie dropping off her kids at Yindra. So there's also a new chart for Katie's cash deposits, which is very advanced and technologically savvy. So whoever's doing that, big props. The checks are still great evidence, and the Donna and the bump. And there's a new flow chart of the, people involved. There's a brand new, beautiful chart, which they actually have interchangeable graphics that float on the screen. It's very, very tech savvy. Charlie let out a large sigh when they showed Donna and Charlie talking about the bump in the picture of them by the ocean front or by the water. He let out a huge sigh, and also he looked angry, and he was blinking and staring at the PowerPoint every time they talked about Donna or Wendy. When they read the Matsuri, video, when he heard himself say, "Do you think there's a recorder in the bag? Not without a warrant," he laughed. He kind of, and I had mentioned that in the live, and I thought, he knows he's gonna have to fight that one. It's a big evidence. So anyway, I thought that the letter from Ruth Markel was incredibly powerful, and especially the part about him altering patients' records. Then also Charlie shook his head. If they had evidence, I would be at the airport. So he's like, no, he wouldn't be at the airport. So he's shaking his head. He looked down and shook his head anytime they mentioned Wendy or Donna. He's dragged his whole family into this. I'm sure he feels crazy about this and probably feels horrible, but it's kind of too late. There are some new evidence about some deposit of $25K and $300K from Harvey in a text that seemed to be new evidence. And selling his business back and forth to his father, the $3 million a year income. So they're on top of these financial records with new evidence out there. And then Charlie's lawyer did his opening and closing statements and rebuttal, and trying to get the state to think that Charlie is not a flight risk, but he's going to have a big job to try to claim Charlie's innocence. Hopefully by the time this comes out, I will have Charlie's MP3 player update out and Charlie's call records out. So check out those videos as well. And I'll be getting Charlie's call records about every 3 months or so. I know this is a slow season. Maybe I'll just be doing case updates of Charlie's case file and his case management hearings, and also want to maybe go to the Sarah Boone trial in Orlando. So let me know if there's any other cases you guys are interested in, and this is definitely the one that I'm the most interested in right now, but let me know your comments below about this case. Anyway, you guys, I thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing. Just being a part of this Justice for Dan community is so important, and Hope everyone's having a wonderful fall. Have a wonderful day.